Can't get enough of Kelly and Ramya?
We're now on YouTube for you to indulge in highlights from our show.
Fair enough. What I'm not disappointed in is getting to chat with Bill Wednesday through Friday, where we flip through a bunch of quirky, and who knows where Bill's going to go, and we get to do that today because it is Wednesday. And Bill, I have to say, I love the dark stories. So, like, I love the fact that I'm here on a Wednesday where you're not restricted. You can do the dark stories. Where are we starting today?
Going to do this one. Muslim call to prayer can now be broadcast publicly in New York City without a permit. So basically, the Muslim call to prayer will ring out more in New York City under guidance announced Tuesday by Mayor Eric Adams, which he says should foster a spirit of inclusivity. So basically, what's happened is that the New York Police Department is working with mosques, and basically there are guidelines that the city has set out. And one of the major ones is, of course, this is during Ramadan, but basically it's going to be how loud they can be. And I guess there's a little more to it than that. But I think it's a great idea. I mean, I wonder how the other people in New York, the non-Muslims, are going to take to this when they hear this broadcast over loudspeakers, and how loud it's going to actually be. It's kind of interesting. It's a good idea. It's just wonder how people are going to take to it.
Oh, I mean, sorry, you go ahead first before my rant.
I'm absolutely fine with it, but
yeah, of course.
Here comes the big but. Everybody should be entitled to then broadcast some kind of prayer. Now, where does that end? I don't know, because it's like, well, how many prayers a day are we going to get from different, groups and etc. But for me, I'm okay with it as long as others are free to use that as well. I'm all for inclusivity. I'm all for that, but I just think everybody needs to be included. And I don't know where that goes to, where that line gets drawn, but to me, that's what would make me satisfied.
Well, there are a few different, kind of non-teeth parts to this right now. Like they said that they're going to make sure, the government's going to make sure, I guess the mayor of the localities are going to make sure that the prayer is going to be broadcasted at an appropriate decibel.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means. I don't know who's going to decide on that, because we know with the audible pedestrian signals, guys, how much discrepancy there is with, hey, it's too loud, it's too quiet. Oh, this is a residential neighborhood. I can't believe this, signal is going off in the middle of the night at this volume. So number one, that's going to be a problematic point. And number two, is this only during Ramadan? Can you clarify?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, because it did say during sundown.
Yeah, that's right.
For the month of Ramadan. But I think the Friday prayers, they will broadcast throughout the year. This is my understanding when I read this article. So that means there's going to be backlash for sure, hands down, because we live in a society with a lot of free speech, with a lot of colliding rights, and I'm very curious about what people are going to bring up as to why this is a problem and why we need to either turn it down or turn it off, or how infrequent or frequently we're going to hear about this stuff. But really, the volume levels are the biggest thing, in my opinion.
I think so.
Yeah, but other than that, Brocky, like you said, hey, if this is going to, for better or for worse, it's probably going to start a catalyst of a situation similarly, right? If you go to Dundas Square in Toronto, you get the corner with this person, the corner with that person, the corner with this religious expression, the corner with that religious expression. And there's all kinds of, I guess, just people and what they're preaching. So I feel like this is kind of a bigger scale version of that, or has the potential to be.
But you see, I hate using the word problem, because it's not a problem. The challenge becomes when you have that corner at Dundas Square and people are freedom of expression, allowed to speak what they want to. I'm all for that. But when you're essentially throwing a book at me and saying I need this or I can heal you, that's when it becomes a bit much. I
Yeah.
have been through those areas and thought to myself, yeah, this is too much for me. So I am okay with freedom of expression. Just don't get inside my bubble. And I find all too often situations like this, people get all too much in my bubble and it just becomes uncomfortable. And the other thing I'll say, and then I'm done my rant on this topic, is that you could ask 100 people what the decibel level of this should be, and everyone's gonna have a different
Of course.
answer. So
Of
it's
course.
like, who makes this decision, and whoever this person is, like you said earlier, what gives this person the decision to make that his or her decision is the quote unquote correct one?
Yeah, and one thing you point out, Brocky, I know, I'm sorry, Billy, you've been trying to jump in for a bit. Was one thing you point out, Brock, is that respect level, right? Like, hey, I don't, you know, if this is your faith, if this is your expression, and that's cool, here's mine. If the kind of respect was all encompassing all over the place, then that would be great. I somehow doubt that it's going to be that easy and that reliable that people are going to react that way. However, I do understand the essence of this, which is inclusivity, right? Which is that, hey, let people express the way they want to and let people feel like they're a part of society, because Ramadan, you know, and this particular call to prayer, which when you read into, or if you have visited countries where there's a predominant Muslim population, or at least a significant Muslim population, that's very normal, right? It's very normalized to have prayers on speakers out loud throughout neighborhoods, throughout cities and towns, just during the times of prayer. But it's just not normalized here, so it's going to have some initial contradictory opinion, I think. Billy, did you have anything to say?
I wonder whether they'll do it here. I mean, or do they already in this city? And
at mosques, yes, but
they
out
do.
Loud and enough for like neighbors to hear or people to hear when they're outside the vicinity of the mosque. I haven't run into that.
It's really interesting that the mayor of New York has basically horrified a lot of people. He's basically saying that he said that church and state shouldn't be separated, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's starting to get political, obviously.
Yeah, oh yeah. But other faith, like he's met with several faith groups, and they really like what he's doing. And the one thing that this call to prayer is going to do is it's going to remind Muslim children of who they really are. Because without that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just part of their culture.
Yeah. This kind of gesture is showing a lot of acceptance, a lot of, you know, let's learn more, let's be together, that kind of thing. Because we know, based on many conversations we've had here on the show, that right now it's very, the government, the way we run state, the way we run politics, there are a lot of other religious influences, mostly Christian influences in all of this, right? So this is a big step. But we'll see where it goes. Billy, you want to bring up something else?
Yeah, I'm going to do something else. If let's look at this one. AI project imagines faces of children who disappeared during the Argentine dictatorship. So if a baby was taken from its parents 40 years ago, what might they look like today? So basically, there's an Argentine publicist who is trying to answer that question. He's taking pictures of parents who have lost parents who has kids taken from them during the Argentine dictatorship between 1970, I believe, in 6 and 1981. So what he does is he's taking pictures of parents and projecting using AI what the kids might look like today, in the hope that some of these kids will log on to his Instagram page and sort of spur them on to maybe finding out who their parents were and that sort of thing, because we know that there's so many kids that were taken from, from their parents, and the parents don't know who the kids are, the kids don't know who the parents are, what they would look like 30, 40 years from now.
So he's really hoping that people will see these AI generated photos of their not hypothetical, but of these kids who we don't know what they actually look like. And the kids would see that resemblance because they may not even understand their background, right? And where these kids came from. Unbelievable, because you're talking not just one generation, but sometimes 2 or 3, right? Like grandparents and great-grandparents.
Grandparents,
Yes. Oh
It's,
my gosh.
I took that another way at first. I was like, do they want that? And then when you brought up the point of like, this is for good, I was like, okay, now I'm on board, Bill.
Well, they, the idea is not, because there's another website called the Grandparents that have been trying to unite children and parents during during the after the dictatorship. But what this guy does is he wants people to, maybe if they log on, they're going to find out who their parents are, and more importantly, stir up consciousness and let people remember that that was a very terrible time, and a lot of these kids that were taken during this dictatorship were brought up by friends of the military, and of course they'd never seen their parents, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like it. You've changed my outlook on this. Bill, thank you so much for this, as always, and we'll talk to you tomorrow for another edition of The Buzz.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
You can catch Kelly and Ramya weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern on AMI.